Live from Studio 550, this is the board meeting on KTRS.
910, Big 550, KTRS. Board meeting is officially in session. Jane Duker is got all dolled up for us today. Good morning, Jane Duker.
Good morning.
You can watch us at stltoday.com, the opinion tab. You can also watch us on the front page of KTRS.com. We're broadcasting from the First Rule Film and Broadcast Studios. Jane Duker is an attorney, former chief of staff to Governor Holden, and local Gadfly, who's, you got dressed up for us, or is there a meeting you have to go to?
Yeah, I have a meeting, not for you all, sorry.
Not for us. John Deal just got finished very busy last week voting on 675 overrides of the governor. He's House Majority Leader, soon to be Speaker of the House. Good morning, John Deal.
Good morning, McCraw.
And filmmaker, attorney, ordained minister, reformed politician, Jay Kanzler filling in for the vacationing Tony Messenger. Good morning, Jay Kanzler.
Good morning, all.
We're going to start with you, Jay Kanzler. You have a couple things you want to get off your chest this morning.
I do. And like I said, I to borrow a phrase, I don't want to go off on a rant here.
That's what the show was all about. So.
It's talk radio.
When they say I don't want to, but
Get
you know
ready.
that's what's coming.
I'm holding on.
We've been a city on the edge ever since the shooting of Michael Brown. And as a result, we became the focus of international attention, and not really for any good reasons. We're trying to move ahead with help and recovery and trying to learn to live together as one region rather than various demographics inside of different zip codes. We have a lot to do. That's obvious, but we've at least started the process. We also have a legal process based upon a rule of law, due process, and this is underway. Bob McCullough has convened the grand jury, and they're doing their work that they're supposed to be doing. We have elected officials, professionals, and others doing their jobs so that the rule of law prevails over vigilantism. But now we have this new group of professional protesters out there who have decided to make the whole thing about themselves. They threaten to shut down the highways if their demands aren't met. They threaten to boycott small businesses if their demands aren't met. Anthony Shahid and his minions took their circus to the county council meeting on Tuesday and enacted in a way that can only be described as embarrassing, boring, and rude. They made threats against people and property if their demands weren't met. And also that they could have the spotlight. Their message isn't about Michael Brown or St. Louis or about Ferguson. It's about them. It's all about them. They tell the press where they're going to be so that when they show up, they can create their little spectacle for the cameras, and the focus is again on them. It's selfish and it's self-promotion. The demands they make are ridiculous. They want the county council to make Bob McCullough step aside as prosecutor. The county council can't do that. Bob McCullough was reelected days before the Michael Brown event. There's no legal means to make Bob McCullough step aside. They want Officer Wilson arrested. He hasn't been indicted yet. He can't be arrested. They demand an indictment, or they plan to burn down the city. Isn't that the MO of ISIS and the radical terrorists? I have a demand. I demand that Anthony Shahid and his posse of professional protesters move aside. And if you want to make threats and call people names, then fine, bring it on. I'm in the book. You can come to me. But in the meantime, let's call your 15 minutes of fame over with, and let's let the people of the community, black, white, yellow, green, let's let them continue with the hard work of recovery.
That is Jay Kanzler, who is finished his rant. That was a very thought-out, educated rant. Jane, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I do, because and I appreciate a lot of what you said. I was at the meeting at the county council on Tuesday night, and it was very difficult. It was, to talk about not letting people finish. People were there for other business. They were not permitted to finish. There was no control whatsoever, or an attempt at control of the meeting. They personally attacked Councilman Stenger, which was, he tried to actually say the message that you're saying, that it's time we open up a dialogue. It's time that we look at ways to move forward as a community. The world is watching. And if we can't show that we bridge the divide, what hope is there that we can bridge the divide anywhere? And that was not permitted he wasn't even permitted to finish. And so I appreciate a lot of what you said. I read in the paper where small businesses now are worried about the protesters moving to them. They're worried about vendors who get to come in and capitalize on all of this situation but don't even need to get a license. And so, they're destroying the community that we're all trying to rally around and save. And, I agree with you. At some point, I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in protesting. But at some point, the protesting has to equal action. And I agree with you. You need to make demands that move the county forward, and demands that can be met.
John Deal, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, there's no doubt there have been professional protesters that have latched onto this from day one. Okay, and there's a difference, I think, however, between protesting in front of a business, trying to shut down a highway or trying to shut down a Cardinals game or a Rams game, versus showing up at a place of government and protesting your government. Look, I've sat on the other end many times.
Absolutely.
Of many angry people being in the room on an issue, whether it's a hearing in the House or in my time as alderman. That's part of the job. Okay, and sure, could meetings be run better? Yeah, I mean, a lot of times meetings are dictated by who runs the meeting and how good a control that they have over that. And what's particularly difficult here is that there's the St. Louis County Council is dominated by Democrats, and there's a Democrat.
It didn't take long. I mean, Rick Street wouldn't even show up.
It's true.
It's true.
Well, no,
but why don't you let me finish my point?
Okay.
Is that they're
Because
dominated
they don't have a PQ like they do at the House.
Why don't you let me finish my point? And that this is a core constituency of the party that's there giving them trouble. So they can't shut them out. They can't have them arrested. And they have to sit there and listen and manage it. And that's just the fact and the reality of the situation. Part of it is the seeds that have been sown over the past decade in terms of race relations and how elections are handled and the lack of economic opportunity and educational opportunities that there are for a significant portion of the county. And those things are coming home to roost. We, as public officials, can't complain that people protest us. That is part of the process.
Well, but there's protesting, there's giving your opinion, and then there's just outright anarchy.
That's running the meeting.
Right.
And
That's
part of the
meeting.
and part of the
physical
part of the
threats.
problem, and again, without getting into the politics of Republican versus Democrat over at the council, there is this. I get back to my original point, which is there is protesting a meeting and going and expressing your opinion. And then there is calling the press days beforehand and saying, we are going to show up and we're going to create a 3-ring circus at the county council meeting. So make sure you have all your cameras, your video cameras, your news cameras pointed on me. It's all about me.
Right.
That's something different. That's professional protesting that is selfish and with a self-interest.
And you may have a right to do it.
That's why you have to come in and run the
Well,
meeting
nobody's
the right
saying
way.
you have a right to do it, but I think Jay's point is, and the larger point is that is your goal to make things
Right.
better, or
Right.
is your goal to enhance your own profile?
Well, and that's the thing. No one's arguing that officials can't listen to the people or shouldn't listen to the people, and these people have no right. But I agree with Jay that this isn't about making things better, and that's where the problem becomes. And I think that the way that you counteract speech like that is you in this way say, you know what, this kind of protesting doesn't move the county forward.
I'm waiting for the next the demand to be, if you don't give us what we want, we'll start beating baby seals to death.
Look, they've said that. They have come out and said in all sorts of ways and form that if this officer isn't indicted, we're going to take it to the streets.
And that's
Absolutely.
I mean, could you? And this other thing about Bob McCullough, why not go after Eric Holder? Eric Holder hasn't indicted anybody. Eric Holder hasn't arrested anybody.
The president hasn't called on McCullough to step aside. A.G. Holder, the governor, our United States senators, our attorney general, no one has said.
Shut down the governor's mansion. Leave the Cardinals. What
Hey,
are
if
the
you want
Cardinal
to start
games?
shutting down some federal government, you'll probably get some folks on my side helping you out.
Right.
But
Or the legislature. You get a lot of votes for that.
If you really, what I'm offended over? Letitia Williams. Letitia Williams was a 14-year-old girl who got A's and B's on her first semester report card at Vashon High School. She went to a Quick Trip because her mother was going to buy her some potato chips as a congratulatory present for doing so well in school, and she gets shot in the eye.
Right, blinded. 53 casings.
I mean, if that isn't something to protest, to try and find justice for, to try and find some type of, let's stop the shooting in
Not
our
a
own
sound.
right.
There hasn't
you
been a
have
sound.
that story every day in every major city, and that is what is holding down the educational and economic opportunities for that community, is because people in those communities no longer believe and don't believe that their children have the opportunities to do better than they've done themselves. And that's where the focus needs to be directed.
And I agree.
And
That's the
what needs to
underlying.
happen.
This didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
Okay. These people, and they have a lot of, and I was at the council meeting, and as horrible as it was, there were people there that genuinely had legitimate concerns and expressed them in a way that was appropriate and well heard. Okay, and there are underlying causes, and there are things like education, economic opportunity, public safety, healthcare, all of the things that are fundamentally broken. We've doubled the amount of poverty in North St. Louis County. It's in the last 10 years, and no one has been talking about that, and it's time. But I agree that we need to start talking about solutions that help the community, solutions that bringing together. There has to be a discussion, or we will never be able to.
But these protesters are so drowning out the real people who want solutions.
And there are good people who do.
That they're getting in the way, and they are abusing their own people. They're using their own people for their own benefit.
And there are a lot of those people that you can ask. Many, if not most of the people at the county council meeting were not even county residents.
Mm-hmm. Could you imagine if a politician got up and said, if Officer Wilson is indicted, we're going to riot? Could you imagine? Right, that politician would be called every name in the book, and yet Lacey Clay can go on Meet the Press and say, if he's not indicted, we're going to take it to the streets.
Right.
It's outrageous. All right, 9:22 here, Big 550. John Deal, Jay Kanzler, Jane Duker. The board meeting continues on the Big 550.